In the cradle of ancient Greece, where democracy bloomed in Athens, a darker empire thrived on the Peloponnese, Sparta. Imagine a society where every child was not a gift, but a weapon. Tested at birth, the frail cast into icy chasms to die alone. The strong, ripped from their families at 7, starved, beaten, trained to kill without mercy. But this wasn't just warcraft. It was eugenics, state-mandated breeding, where love was outlawed, and bodies were tools for the perfect soldier. What horrors hid behind those legendary shields? Tonight, descend into Sparta's abyss, where discipline birthed monsters, and a nation's obsession with strength sowed its own destruction. Stay with us, if you dare. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments, and if you support real stories like this, hit subscribe to help us keep these stories coming. For dramatic music swell and visuals of misty mountains, Spartan helmets glinting in torchlight. Welcome to Echoes of the Ancients, where we unearth the forgotten shadows of history. Today, we delve into the grim heart of Sparta, a civilization that engineered its youth not for joy or knowledge, but for unyielding military dominance. From the 8th century BC to its decline around 371 BC, Sparta's society was a machine of control, prioritizing the collective over the individual, the sword over the soul. But beneath the myth of heroic warriors lies a story of cruelty, manipulation, and eventual decay. Let us begin at the very moment of life. Ominous drumbeat fades in. Picture this: a newborn Spartan infant, fragile, crying in the dim light of a stone chamber, not cradled in loving arms, but presented to a council of elders. These grizzled men, survivors of countless battles, inspect the child with cold precision. Is it sturdy, limbs straight, cry robust? If yes, the baby is assigned a plot of land, a future stake in the state. But if deemed weak, deformed, or simply unfit, the verdict is swift. The child is carried to the Apothetai, a jagged chasm on Mount Taygetus, and hurled into the void, exposed to the elements, left to perish in silence. This was no mercy killing. It was eugenics in its rawest form. Plutarch, in his Life of Lycurgus, describes how infants were even bathed in wine as a test. The healthy would be tempered like steel. The sickly would convulse and fail. The state, not the parents, decided who lived, ensuring only the strongest genes fueled Sparta's war machine. For in Sparta, reproduction was not a private affair, but a public duty. Weakness was excised at the root, to breed an army without flaw, with echoing wind sound effect. But survival at birth was merely the first trial. For Spartan boys, the true forging began at age 7. Torn from their mother's embrace, they entered the agoge, a state-run education system unlike any other in the ancient world. No cozy schools with scrolls and debates here. Instead, a brutal regimen designed to strip away softness and instill absolute obedience. Enrolled in companies under the command of older youths, these boys learned to march in lockstep, to endure without complaint. They went barefoot year-round, clad in a single thin cloak, even in winter's bite. Their beds? Pallets of rushes they gathered themselves, breaking them with bare hands to toughen their resolve. Food was scarce, deliberately so. Boys were encouraged to steal provisions, not out of necessity, but to hone cunning and survival skills. Caught, severe floggings awaited, lashes that scarred flesh and spirit alike. Yet they bore it silently, for to cry out was cowardice, and cowardice meant exile or death. Heavy, breathing sound effect, transitioning to rhythmic marching. Endurance tests pushed them to the brink. Mimic battles, where young Spartans clashed with wooden swords, drawing blood to simulate war's chaos. public whippings at the altar of Artemis Orthia, where boys competed to withstand the most strikes without flinching. Plutarch recounts how some died under the lash, their stoicism praised as the height of virtue. Obedience was drilled relentlessly. Elders posed riddles, demanding laconic replies, short, sharp, unflinching. A boy might be asked, "What is the greatest good?" The answer, to die for Sparta. Failure to respond correctly meant ridicule, isolation, or worse, and woven through it all, the mentorship of older men. Pederasty, as described in historical accounts, was institutionalized, older warriors taking boys as lovers to guide their moral and martial growth. It was manipulation masked as bonding, ensuring loyalty to the state above all. By age 20, these youths emerged as hoplites, lean, lethal, unbreakable. But at what cost? Childhoods shattered, emotions suppressed, humanity sacrificed on the altar of discipline. Now, turn to the girls. For Sparta was unique in ancient Greece, treating its daughters not as delicate ornaments, but as vital cogs in the eugenic engine. From a young age, Spartan girls trained alongside boys in physical pursuits, running races across dusty fields, wrestling in the sun, hurling javelins and discus with fierce precision. They exercised naked or in minimal tunics, their bodies honed for one purpose, to bear robust offspring. Plutarch notes how this regimen prepared them for painless childbirth, their muscles strong, their spirits unyielding. They danced and sang in public festivals, mocking underperforming boys to spur competition, or praising the valiant to ignite ambition. Education for girls emphasized simplicity, no cosmetics, no luxury, just raw physicality. And in this, the state's hand was ever present. Girls were groomed to become mothers of warriors, their fertility a resource to be optimized. Weakness in a woman? Unthinkable. She must produce sons fit for the phalanx, or daughters who would do the same. With faint echoes of feminine chants, sexuality and reproduction, these were not matters of the heart in Sparta, but instruments of control. Marriage came late, men often in their 30s, women in their late teens. To ensure peak vitality, the ritual was barbaric. A groom captured his bride, shaving her head, dressing her in men's clothes, leaving her in a dark room. He would sneak in for brief, secretive unions, then return to his barracks. Why the secrecy? To build desire, to prevent familiarity from breeding contempt, ensuring passionate, productive encounters. But love? Irrelevant. The state encouraged, even mandated, selective breeding. Elderly husbands might lend their wives to younger, stronger men if it promised superior children. Brothers shared spouses. Polyandry sanctioned for genetic gain. Children belonged not to parents, but to Sparta. Adultery, in the modern sense, was reframed. If it produced better warriors, it was duty. Bachelors faced public shame, forced to march in tunics while women jeered, denied honors until they contributed to the bloodline. This was eugenics writ large, a calculated pursuit of perfection, where human bonds were severed for the sake of the hoplite shield wall. Such practices forged an unparalleled military power. At Thermopylae, in 480 BC, 300 Spartans held off thousands of Persians, their discipline a wall of bronze and bone. Obedience unto death, endurance that defied human limits, these were the fruits of the agoge. Sparta dominated the Peloponnese, its phalanxes feared across Greece. For centuries, this system sustained a warrior elite, the Spartiates, who lived off the labor of enslaved helots, freeing them to train endlessly. Yet the tone shifts to Mayholi. But perfection came at a price. The relentless focus on eugenics and control led to demographic suicide. Strict citizenship rules, only those who completed the Agoge qualified as full Spartiates. Battle losses couldn't be replaced easily. Foreigners and helots barred from the ranks. By the 4th century BC, Sparta's citizen population dwindled from thousands to mere hundreds. The helots, outnumbering Spartans 10-1, simmered with resentment. Uprisings loomed. The very rigidity that built the empire eroded it from within. At Leuctra in 371 BC, Thebes shattered Sparta's invincibility, exposing the hollow core. The obsession with engineered soldiers blinded them to innovation, alliances, humanity. Sparta faded, a cautionary tale of how cruelty masquerading as strength devours its own. Pause, with fading echoes of battle cries. As we reflect on this grim legacy, remember Sparta's shadows linger. In our modern quests for perfection, be it through science or society, the line between discipline and despotism is thin. Thank you for joining us on this descent into history's depths. If this episode chilled your soul, like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, may your own trials forge wisdom, not ruin. Out with somber orchestral close.